Hey guys, welcome back for week 3 power rankings. We'll jump straight into it and I'll kick on off to Jaden for pick number 32.
Alrighty. Yeah, my number 32, quite obvious, San Jose.
Yep. I mean,
I haven't made any
I'd
big
be
calls.
questioning. Yeah, I know. I was going to say I'd be questioning if you didn't have the only team without a win in the NHL, not at 32, but hey.
I might have had my reasons, you don't know. But no,
Well,
I think it's a 32 for everyone at the moment, and it will be until at least they win a game. But yeah, I got nothing else to say. Like, what else do you say, like, for them?
you can't. They're averaging a goal a game,
Mm.
which is just atrocious. And yeah, outside of that, everything else is just not going for them. They can't score goals. They can't, um, you know, they can't stop goals, stop conceding goals. So yeah, it's just ugly. But we all expected it. We all expected them to be like this for pretty much this year and
Yeah.
a few years from now. So
No, it's a good season
yeah.
for them in the end.
Oh, exactly. Like they only score one goal this week. They get shut out twice. In saying that they played what Florida, Tampa, and Carolina, so it's not an easy week, but they're not even competitive at this point. So yeah, it's going to be a long season, Sharks fans. But
Alrighty.
all
Third.
right, straight on to P31. Hey, I know for a fact that you're definitely going to be making the same call. I might be wrong. I'd be shocked if I am, but this is a massive one, and the Edmonton Oilers.
Ooh, no, they're in my top 16. Um,
I was gonna
no.
say you have them in your tops. You have them anywhere near top 16, and I would laugh. I'd be like, Who are you?"
Well, it's
Um,
not a shock from my rankings last week that I was very low on them, and they're still playing the
oh,
same old. So, I yeah, like you can't really move on them besides down, and just they look ordinary, just completely ordinary. There's nothing really firing. Honestly, Skinner was one of the only good looking parts of their team, and yeah, like you can't win a game when you don't score a goal against the Rangers, and even though he stood on his head. So yeah, nothing to
yeah.
look forward to except McDavid's return, and even then, it's like, is that going to be enough?
Well, yeah. I mean, McDavid's only been out for a couple of games, and they weren't looking too good with him anyway. So,
Exactly.
it's McDavid obviously is a big piece, and we know the Oilers can go on those runs. But yeah, look, it's something's got to click, and I'm sure it will for Edmonton. Like anyone with McDavid and Draisaitl, they showed last year. They had their patches of just complete trash, and then went on runs and ended up finishing, I don't know, like 8th overall in the standings and second in the Pacific. So I'm sure they'll turn it around, but at the moment they look extremely ordinary. So for the time being, this is where they've got to be.
Oh, yeah, well, that's it. And their um, power play hasn't really gotten firing, and that's really what kept them inflated last season. So everyone that had them as cup favorites, essentially, is looking like they got egg on their face. But I guess I'll move on to number 30. I have another Pacific team, Calgary Flames. These two will be going head to head in the next games, Calgary and Edmonton. I guess for the fate of number 31, maybe next week for me. 20,
Potentially.
29 for you. Both
Yeah.
big moves, -9, -6, and yeah, just very, very, very ordinary. They can't win. There's sometimes it just looks like there's zero effort out there, and that's not what you want to see. Like that's not how you win. You can't win games without effort. Even some of the worst teams in the league give effort every night, and they just don't have the firepower. And Calgary have the firepower, but not the effort, and that's what it seems like.
Yeah, and it's just, yeah, I just don't know what's going on because these guys were the ones that I had pegged for a big bounce back season. It's just not happening. Like Jonathan Huberdeau, expecting him to come out of the gates after his somewhat disappointing year last year. Kadri and all the rest of that to sort of really hit the ground this season, but it's just not happening yet. Again, we're 7, 8 games into the season. You can't sort of panic too early, because I think Minnesota, who are doing the same thing this year, but they were between 20 and 25th for the first 2 months of the season last season, and they end up finishing third in the Central and reasonably high up in the standings. So, yeah, you can never get too concerned this early on, but they're definitely not looking like the team I was expecting to see.
Nah, I'm sure Daryl Sutter, coach fired last year, is probably looking at it and laughing from the sidelines that he wasn't the problem. And yeah, it looks like Huskers got a lot of things to change to make this team at least competitive.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
Hmm.
All right, on to my number 30. I have another Pacific team struggling. I just realized that the bottom four, for me anyway, are all Pacific.
It's a strong division, guys.
Holy crap!
It's
Oh, that
yeah.
was it was supposed to be a stronger division this year.
Yeah,
Um,
you didn't think you could get any worse.
no, but at number 30, I have the Seattle Kraken.
Ooh. Yeah, see, I've done the same thing. Um, yeah, I was
Oh,
kind of shocked when I saw it when I did it, and I was like, wait, I gotta recheck this. But yeah, it is what it is.
yep. But that look, they're having it. They that those 4 teams. I mean, San Jose we expected, but I didn't expect the Oilers, the Kraken, or the Flames to be anywhere near this spot at any stage of the season. I guess it's best to be at this spot early in the season rather than late in the season. I guess that's the only saving grace you've got. But yeah, look, Seattle were better this week, but yeah, I don't know. They still just can't get the wins. Like they get the one win against Detroit in OT, and then they lose to the Carolina Hurricanes and they lose to the Florida Panthers. So, a tough week, but um, they're not banking those wins at the moment. And yeah, so slow start, but yeah, can they find that form that got them a playoff spot last year or last
Yeah,
season?
it's probably well, these three teams on my list anyway, the last three, probably been the biggest disappointment so far this season, for what was
Oh,
expected
for
of
sure.
them. And look, they get 3 out of 6 points. Like they go 500 in a sense. This week, but that's why I couldn't move on them. I expect bigger things, and I think the other teams above them just playing a little bit better. And yeah, it's struggle town. Like I can definitely see them flicking it really quickly, but at the moment it doesn't look like it. Alrighty,
No, no, not good.
I'll move on to my 28 outside the Pacific. So we're into different territory here. Buffalo Sabres.
Ooh, that's a massive call.
Rawr.
I mean, look, I've got him a few spots up, but like I feel like from where I've got him to where you've got him is a big jump. That's bottom 5 territory.
Well,
Oh, that
yeah, I honestly I think the bottom four is like the solidest of bottom fours, and then from there, like it's competitive hockey, in a sense. So honestly, from here to a little bit up, I can see a little bit of movement. Uh, Another team being a very big disappointment. Go 1-2 for the week. They lose to Montreal on the back-to-back, beat Ottawa, and then they go and lose to the Devils. Though they were competitive, but the Devils do have some defensive woes that can be exploited at the moment. So yeah, I would have liked to probably seen them to get the win over the Devils and take advantage of probably a weaker Devils at the moment and boost them up the power rankings. But Yeah, I just can't move on it just from the Ottawa win, and they're getting pretty much outshot in that game as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's crazy because to be honest with you, I would have thought the game they would have won out of that back to back would have been the Montreal, and then expecting them to lose to Ottawa on the back to back. But yeah, what it wasn't to be. I don't I know Montreal are playing reasonable hockey at the moment, but that's a team that, it's a division rival and it's a team that you should be beating. Um
Well, they lose to two
and
division rivals and then a conference
yeah,
rival, so
all in the 1 week. So yeah, look, they're not at their best, that's for sure. But I also seen, yeah, I see some glimpses in that firepower that they showed against Ottawa and against the Devils as well is well and truly there. It's just they've got to shore that defense up. That they're just leaking goals that they shouldn't. Um, and yeah, they're very wobbly. That was my concern about them at the start of the year, was whether or not that defense would hold up. But yeah, I'm interested to see if they can turn this around because I tell you what, if Buffalo go from being 1 point away from a playoff spot to having an absolute shocker, there won't be some happy fans, that's for sure.
yeah. Alrighty.
Right, on to my 28. I did consider moving these guys up a little bit just because of the win that they got the other day, but I've got the Chicago Blackhawks.
Oh, okay. They are my 26.
Oh,
So
you might have moved up on them a little bit. I
I
mean,
moved them
look,
one, just out of generosity, in a sense. Nah, just
oh
for that
look, they beat
Vegas win.
Vegas.
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
had to
what
move
a,
them for
what
that
a
one.
comeback.
Mm.
Yeah, what a comeback. They're playing some reasonable hockey. They get blanked by Boston, but again, it's Boston, and everyone thinking that they were going to fall off a cliff, and that just hasn't happened. Um, you know, but then come up against Vegas, they're a few goals down. They're looking pretty much done, and they come back and get the job done. So, yeah, look, good on them. Good win. Handed Vegas their first loss of the season. Um, so yeah, look, it's why I didn't really move on them. That Boston loss couldn't really hold too much against them, but I kind of wanted to sort of move them because of the Vegas win. But I think there's just a couple of teams who have, you know, clearly moved above them in terms of like Washington and Anaheim, given how good of a week they both had. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no, it's
had
understandable. They only played two games, and basically the two teams in the top three that were undefeated from last week, and they came up with 2 points, which is probably the best case scenario for them. So that's why I moved up on them. Um, Alrighty, my 27, I have team you mentioned, the Washington Capitals.
yeah, I think they're my number 20. Yeah, they're my 27. So yep,
Yeah,
right there with you.
yeah. Look, they have a really good week, kind of a bounce back to some sort of form. Beating the Devils, I mentioned like their defensive woes. They beat the Wild in shootout, so probably I would say a draw. And 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 then yeah, they lose to Toronto. Obviously, that Devils win on the back to back as well, which was even more impressive. It look, they're coming into form. They move up 4 spots for me. I need to just see more games. That's basically it. I still think they're very ordinary. Um, it's probably one of the slower teams in the league. So honestly, I just need to see more volume of games before I can move on higher on them.
Yeah, like the yeah, as you said, yeah, they obviously caught the Devils on there. I don't know if it's what we're just going to see from the Devils this year, but they look very ordinary to start the season. But there were glimpses. Washington didn't necessarily look all that good, but they just scored goals. Like just Devils just leaking goals like crazy at the moment. Not very good defensively. Their goaltending's questionable, and Washington took advantage of that. But then you saw the opposite end of what we are seeing from Washington a bit start of the season, which is just them being slow and leaking goals easily, and the Devils took advantage of that. I think they scored 3 goals in 2 minutes. But yeah, they were strong enough to obviously get the win, and then do the same against Minnesota, taking it to shootout. So yeah, look, they get 2 good wins in the week, and you can't not move them up because of that. Like they played reasonably good hockey. I still have real questions about them. I don't think that this is going to be the start of some crazy comeback, and they're going to be flying up the rankings and back into playoffs. I still think that they're going to miss out quite significantly. I still think they'll be 7th or 8th in the Metro.
Yeah, well, it's a very
Um,
hard Metro.
Oh yeah, but yeah, good week basically.
Yep.
You got to reward them for it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, moving on to 26. I have the St. Louis Blues.
They are my 25.
Yeah, it was an interesting one with these guys. They dropped one for me, but like I don't. It was like I don't feel like they should drop a position. I didn't think they played that badly, but I think it's just teams around them. They beat the Flames 3-0. Um, that is the yep. No, I was just like, well, I'm looking at the right thing, right? But they get blanked by Vancouver 5-0, and they get beaten by the Winnipeg Jets
Yeah.
4-2. So not, not fantastic. Good win against Calgary. The Vancouver one is on a back-to-back, which
And
is one of
Vancouver
the
had 2 days rest. Yeah.
they did, and it's one of the things I question about the schedule is like so St. Louis play a game and then play Vancouver on a back-to-back. Vancouver are playing their first game, but then Vancouver go and play New York Rangers on a back-to-back, but New York Rangers aren't on a back-to-back. Like,
Yeah.
can we make that make sense? Like,
But the Devils and Caps played on a back-to-back. Both.
mm,
So it it doesn't make sense. Doesn't line up. Uh, yeah, schedule wise. So, but they got blanked 5-0. I don't think they were going to win that game, even if it wasn't. But they probably could have been way more competitive. And look, I think they're being semi-competitive in their games. St. Louis, they're pretty close to like breaking out from this rut that they're in. I would have liked to seen them get like at least a point from the Winnipeg game. It was good that they blanked Calgary. I think that's more on issues of Calgary though than St. Louis being good. And then obviously they come up with a team that's pretty hot right now in Vancouver and get pretty destroyed. So it I can't move on them up. I can't move on them down. Even though they only get 2 out of the 6 points for the week. It's Yeah, it's struggle town, but I don't feel like they're that far away from breaking out. It's just they got to
they,
do something.
they need to find a way to score. They're averaging 1.86 goals a game, and their power plays at like 4.8%. So their power play is not firing, and they're struggling to put goals on the board. So um, it's all right if your defense is staying strong. But when you get blanked 5-0, if you can't score more than 2 goals a game, it's kind of tough to win games. And so far, it's held them in reasonable stead because they're playing okay defensively, but it doesn't leave you a lot of room for error. So
Hmm. Yeah,
yeah, I think they just need to find a way to score, and they've got the players, so there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to score. I actually thought that these guys would be their issue would be is that they couldn't score enough because they were conceding too many goals.
yeah,
But defensively they've been pretty good. It's
yeah.
just they
Goaltending
can't
has been pretty good
seem
as
to
well.
score. Surprisingly, but yeah.
All right. On to number 24. I have it. I'll be interested to see where you have this team, the Minnesota Wild.
Only a couple of spots ahead. I don't have them that low, but I have them at 22.
Yeah, they don't move for me. Obviously you're a bit higher on them last week as well than me. So yeah, it's just very ordinary. There's not much to gloat about for this team. I'm pretty negative on them at the moment. Obviously Spurgeon's out. Hopefully comes back by the end of November. Boldy, um, maybe day to day. We'll have to see how he goes. So for the team with cap issues because of how much cap is gone away, every player counts, and especially Spurgeon. So I don't know how much that will bolster at the end of November when he comes back, but it's definitely going to help. And I don't know if it's going to be too late for him, and if they can do a run. So I'm worried for their season, and maybe it's just a season where you might have to call it quits early. I don't know, but it's pretty down in the
Yeah,
dumps for me at the moment.
yeah. Look, I even though I think we both had Minnesota making the playoffs in our predictions, they were one of my worries of, like how much longer can they continue to be relevant with 15 mil tied up in cap? So I, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the year they fall away. But again, I feel like they've got enough to do something if Spurgeon gets himself back. Boldy shouldn't be out for too much longer. So yeah, look, I think they can get it back, and a Minnesota team conceding 4 something goals against is very un-Minnesota like. So yeah, I wouldn't be hitting the panic button too soon because they did this same thing last season and they bounced right back. So
Mm.
um yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see what they can do.
yeah. My concern for them is like they beat Edmonton and they go to shootout and lose with the Capitals. Both teams we already talked about. The team that they lost to is obviously a team we haven't talked about. So feeding off lower end teams at the moment this week is what it looks like. 3 out of 6 points. But yes, anyway, moving on to 24 for you.
All right, 24 for myself. I have a team coming flying up the rankings, and obviously you've got them a little bit higher as well, which just shows how good of a week they had. The Anaheim Ducks. I don't think they got past this point in the entirety of last season, let alone 3 weeks into the season.
I got them just a slightly higher at 20.
Ooh,
Yeah, so I went big on them. I had to give it to them.
20.
I think that what
Wow.
they're now 500. They lose to Boston, OT win against Columbus, OT win against Boston, and then they beat the Flyers, who have been pretty red hot this year. So 3 really big results, honestly, and I have to give it to them. They looking like not the Anaheim that we know of, them being not fun to watch, even for the fans, and it looks like they're playing better hockey just in general, even if they're not getting the results. So that's the positive for them. And now that they're getting results, it's better for the fans. I don't know if the fans want it because maybe you probably want the picks, but yeah. And what's this? The fifth Pacific Division team that we've mentioned now. So it
Pretty
shows
much.
how weak that division is, and at least they'll get to feed off each other for a few extra points throughout the season.
This is another thing. Like I know we've touched on scheduling it a little bit, but um, Nashville come with a pretty solid, rough start. Vegas, who won the cup, had an easy start to the year, and you look at Anaheim, who finished 31st last season. They come up against Vegas, Carolina, Dallas, Arizona, Boston, Columbus, Boston, Philly. So you look at it and you go, okay, you probably say Vegas, Carolina, Dallas, and the 2 Boston games. You're playing 5 games of your opening 8 games of the year against absolute powerhouses.
Yep, and they're now 500 and on
That
a
I
on a
guess
3 game win
that's
streak.
yeah, like that's and you know what? That's why you having them at 20, you can justify that 100% because
Mm,
that is you come 5 games against powerhouse teams and you're 4-4. In saying that you only won, you won 2 of those 5 games, but you've made it count against the others. You made it count against Columbus and Philly, and Philly have also been much improved this season as well. So yeah, look, what they're doing is great. The question for me is going to be, can they keep it up? They
Yeah.
look better, but the problem with young teams is they do this. They'll win 3 in a row, then they'll lose 8.
Mm. Well, they,
So
well, they,
let's see what they do from
well,
here.
they benched Zegras in the Columbus game, and since then they haven't lost. So maybe that's the recipe. Keep players accountable for their actions.
Yeah,
Because he got benched after some pretty horrendous plays, and yeah, that's what you have to do. It doesn't matter who you are. You've got to be accountable. I
for
think it's
sure.
my pick. So number
Mhm.
23, I'm going with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Oi. We haven't had too many similar sort of positions, but here we go. Pittsburgh at 23, hey? That's something we can agree
Yeah,
on.
very worrying. Considering
Uh-huh.
what they went out and got in the off season. Obviously, losing to Dallas, the big saving grace for the week is that they beat Colorado, even shut them out, 4-0. But then they go and lose to Ottawa, with a day's break, which doesn't make sense to me. But I guess that's why ice hockey is so competitive, and they outshot them with an extra 16 shots and only scored 2 goals, and they concede 5. So that's hockey.
Yeah.
That's why we love it. Unpredictable results, but not looking good for Pittsburgh. They really do have to turn it around because they obviously are going for it, and yeah, I don't know what has to change for them to do it. Ah, let you let you answer that if you can.
Oh, it's yeah. Look, their power play is not hasn't clicked just yet. Obviously, Carlson added onto that. Um, but look, their numbers aren't terrible. It's just you do have to ask that question. How do you go and beat an unbeaten Colorado Avalanche 4-0, and then you go up against Ottawa, who I still think they've been playing some good hockey, but it's just you look at their last 5 results. They get smacked by Detroit last week, 6-3. They get beaten by St. Louis, who is a team they should 100% be beating if they want to be relevant in the playoffs. They lose 4-1 to Dallas, but you go, all right, it's Dallas. Then they blank Colorado, and you think, okay, this is good here. If they can get a good result against Ottawa, they'll be all right. And then they get, pretty well handled against Ottawa. So yeah, it's I don't know. All I'm seeing at the moment is just like, oh, Pittsburgh could. Nah, they can't. Oh, they might. No, they can't. Yeah, I they did it to us last season as well, where they had some glimpses of the olden day Pittsburgh, and then they just fell apart. So yeah, at the moment it's a 50-50 on whether they're going to be relevant or anything. So who
Yeah.
knows? They might just need 10, 20 games to get their shit together and get used to Eric Carlson on their team, and who knows? They might hit the ground running.
Alrighty, your pick.
All right, well, I'm not at 22, am I? I'm at 21. At 21 for me, I have the Columbus Blue Jackets, a team that I cannot for the life of me work out whether they're going to have a good season or not at the moment.
All right, they are my 21. Moving down 4 positions, kind of similar to you.
Yeah, I just I don't know really what to make of them. Like I keep seeing them play some really good hockey and being like, oh yeah, this is the team I was sort of expecting to see. This is why I had them as a, dark horse for a potential playoff spot. And then they'll come out and they won't look good at all.
Mm.
I know the Ducks and Montreal have been much better this year. But yeah, you're thinking they've got to beat at least one of them, but they get done in OT against both, and then they get blanked by the Islanders. Albeit, it is the Islanders with Sorokin, who can be a pain to get past sometimes. But yeah, it's just unfortunately it was a really sort of poor week from Columbus.
Yeah, that's basically it. Higher expectations, and they're probably not beating the teams you want them to beat in like Anaheim, Montreal. Those are the like points this year that you're expecting this team to probably feed off and propel their season into the wild card, if not higher spot. As we know, the Metro is really, really competitive. Same with the Atlantic. So every point counts. And losing to Montreal, that's a division, well, not division, conference rival. New York Islanders division rival, a very important one because Islanders definitely going for that wild card spot as well, and that's really hampering their season, which is a shame. But hopefully they can bounce back. I still have high hopes for them, but the longer they sit around this area, the worse it is. Obviously.
Yeah, look, I think, the thing with them is that Columbus fans are going to be happy with anything that's better than what they showed last year. And I think they're definitely going to get that. But I think for me, I just kind of had high hopes on Columbus. I just thought that, with the addition of Fantilli, Werenski back, some things were going to align for them, and they were going to hit the ground running. But yeah, it's been a bit of a mixed bag so far. Not to say that they won't click, but I'm just seeing a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde from them so far. So
Yep.
yeah, let's see what the coming weeks bring.
Alrighty. 22 for me. I have the Arizona Coyotes. Uh,
22.
big move for me. It is
That
-9,
would have hurt. That would have hurt for you as well.
-5. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
they
so
struggled
I'm
too.
always high on the Coyotes. You always want them to, like the underdogs to do well.
Yeah.
Obviously, an interesting week in Russell Wise. They come up against the same team twice in LA, lose both games. Honestly, competitive in both games is what you want to see. Only losing by a goal in one of them, uh, and then even well equaling shots in the first one as well. So I couldn't derank him too much further, obviously, but I feel like they're sort of slowly hitting a wall. Not too big of a wall, but it's sort of slightly coming apart for me, and I don't know how I can't see him going further down personally, but I can't really see him going further up for next week personally. That's just my gut feeling, my prediction.
Yeah, I mean, look, they it's a tough one, They win their first game against the Devils in shootout. They lose the next two by a single goal against the Rangers and Islanders in back-to-backs. So, and then, they lose the two this week against the Kings. So, but three of their four losses have been by a single goal. Their numbers are looking okay. Their power play is looking pretty solid at 26%. They're not conceding a stupid amount of goals, which is good. It's just, yeah, I think it's what's to be expected from these guys. I think we're only 7 games in for them. They're 3-4. I'm still liking what we're seeing from them. I'm still liking the fact that their young lads are looking good. Their young lads are getting good development into them. It's I don't I don't ex I, look I still feel like they're going to put up 80-ish points this year. I never had them pegged for a playoff spot, but I still believe that they'll put up 80 points.
Yeah.
I still
No,
have yeah,
I agree too. I think they'll be competitive throughout the whole entire season.
yeah, for sure.
Alrighty. You're 19.
My 19 is team that I just I think we're going to see this all year from them, where they're good 1 minute and bad the next. But it's the Winnipeg Jets.
Okay.
They had
This is, I guess, where we differ a bit. I've got them in my top 16.
Wow. Yeah, see, look, I contemplated that. They had a really good week. What did they got 5 out of 6 points. But I think it was just the weeks prior to that I sort of questioned a little bit, because before this um they were 2-3. before this week. So yeah, I think it's just one of those things that they they're having their good days and their bad days, and they just happen to have a good week.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I feel like they've always been a roller coaster team. They played better defensively anyway, a little bit against St. Louis, winning that 4-2. Then they beat the red hot Red Wings, even though the Red Wings did have a bad week. And then they go to shootout and lose, even though they outshot Montreal by 16 shots. They lose in shootout, which is basically a draw, which is another team we haven't mentioned yet. So honestly, I feel like this is kind of like the ballpark, like in and around the top 16. They're just flirting with it. So I think you could have them anywhere from probably 16 to 19. I think that's where they're flirting. But it's the same issue as always, like their consistency with the
yeah,
Winnipeg Jets.
yeah, 100%. You look at their first four games. They go three losses and a win, and their last four games they've gone three wins and a loss and a shootout loss. So um, yeah, it's why I couldn't move too high on them. I need to see more. I don't just want to see one good week and go,
Mm,
oh, let's put them to where they sit. I think they're 12th in the NHL rankings. So it's like, oh, yeah, they won three games. Let's
mhm.
put them 12th because that's where they are in the thing. I, and then the very next week they go and lose three games,
Yeah.
and it's like, cool. Now I'm putting them back to, especially this early on, because three wins in a week can put you up 10 spots in the rankings. Three losses in a week could put you down 10 spots in the rankings. It's just, you know, teams haven't acquired the big runs and all the rest of it quite yet. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, if they win another two or three games next week, 100% you'll see them go up and probably in this top 16. But um, I just don't want to move on them too quickly.
Yeah. That's all fair. On to my number 19. I have the Montreal Canadiens
Oh.
having a really good
Yeah, see,
week.
see, this is the team that I moved on, but I don't think it's just a really good week. I think they've started the year off pretty solidly. They've moved into my top 16.
Yeah.
So this might be a team that I've moved on too quickly, but I just feel like they've had a good year, not just a good week.
Yeah, like my concern is that they get outshot every game, especially like this week. They win against Buffalo back to back. They lose to the Devils. They OT win against Columbus, and then they shootout win against Winnipeg. So two of those going to extra time. Granted, you want games to go to extra time, so you guarantee at least a point. And look, Buffalo has been very ordinary. Columbus had a very ordinary week, and then Winnipeg Jets we just mentioned. So teams all below them so far, besides the Devils who beat them. But yeah, they're just not outshooting their opponent. So I think the opponents always sort of get the upper hand on them. It it's always seemed to be the case for Montreal at the moment because of that. But I do think Gallagher's played a little bit better for them, which is definitely helping. And I think they're some of their players that have been lackluster, especially last year, just stepping up that little bit more, and that's helping him on this run. Hopefully they can maintain it. I'm not convinced on it yet, as per our rankings. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see if they remain in the top 16 for you next week, or if they do go the old ways and start playing badly.
Oh, and do you know what? I could 100% see it. It was one of those things where it was like with the Jets, I'm like, I can't do it just because, they had the three real bad games at the start of the year and then they've moved on. Montreal was a little bit different. They've had a pretty solid 8 game stretch. Um, Hence why I was like, do you know what? I probably can, but because they got 3 games next week, I think they got Vegas, Arizona, and St. Louis or something like that. Um, they should, with the way they've been going, take at least 3 to 4 points out of that week. If they can do that, they'll remain in my top 16 easy. Because they've gotten results when it counts. I know the concern is that they give up a lot of shots. They seem to always be in games, besides the Devils and probably the Minnesota game. But even the Devils game, they were still in it to an extent.
Yeah.
They were competitive, and I think it was just one of those things that even when they were 4-1 down, I think they were still there. They were still in the game, and they never quit. So yeah, it was just one of
Yeah.
those sort of things
I
that
think this
happened
is just a team that's relying on really good goaltending from Jake Allen. I think it's kind of like what Montreal's done in the past with Carey Price and relying on just solid goaltending to push you through. And feel like that's what they're getting out of Allen is like a Carey Price season so far. We'll just have to see if he can maintain it. But that he's getting them into the top 16 for you already, which is good signs. And hopefully he keeps getting more support from his D.
for sure. All
Alrighty.
right, on to my 18. I have the Florida Panthers.
Alrighty. I just had to look where they were for me. I have 18 as well, Florida Panthers.
Look, they go 2-0. I find it really strange having a team that's gone 2-0 actually dropping positions.
Mm.
But they didn't exactly play anyone of note. San Jose and Seattle Kraken. So, according to our rankings, basically the worst team in the league and one of the worst teams in the league at the moment. Um, yeah, I'm not sold on them, and I'm clearly neither are you at this point.
Yeah, I think they're kind of the same season so far as last season. Uh, the, the schedule for this week, probably the easiest you could ask for in San Jose and Seattle, with a down Seattle, San Jose obviously being almost a guaranteed win. So it's hard to move on them. It's why I don't. At the moment, I have to. It's just I have to see more volume. I'm not overly impressed yet with them. I'm not overly disappointed, and that's why they're just slightly out of the top 16 for me.
Yeah, look, uh, we said it all along with Ekblad and Montour out until they come back. I think it's going to be a struggle for Florida. So it's good that they're picking up the wins against the likes of teams that they should, like Sharks and Seattle. But yeah, to whether or not they're top 16 worthy just yet, I think that's going to come when they play the tougher opponents.
Alrighty, number 17. So just my last team, bottom 16, Nashville Predators.
2 in a row. Look at us go. Yeah, it's the same here. They're just outside, but I do question where they're sitting and where they're gonna sit because they've had quite a difficult run to start the season.
Yeah, we covered it last time as well. Obviously coming against Vancouver and Toronto this week, getting the OT win over Toronto. So they take 2 out of 4 points. Obviously losing to Vancouver, and I feel like they're always in their games. They're just always really competitive. It's just honestly having to finish some games that they don't finish, and that's why they're just slightly out the top 16 for me. It, I just think they're just struggling to finish some games, even though they're in it all the way. It was really good to see though they get the OT win, they get the extra point against Toronto, so that's why they don't move any further down for me. It was once again, like I said, hard schedule, so it's hard to punish them too greatly.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like tough to punish a team that's coming up
Yeah,
against
and it's
some of
not
the
really
better
punishing
teams
as
in the
well.
league.
Other teams skipped them just because they had better weeks. That's all.
Oh, exactly. But yeah, good win against Toronto. Their power play looks good. Their penalty kill looks dog shit. Um, it's a tale of two woes, isn't it? Um, but yeah, look, some good signs from a team that people were expecting to fall off a cliff. So, um, you were very high on them at start. You thought they could be a potential dark horse for a playoff spot, and they're still sort of yeah, they're still showing signs of that and glimpses of that. So
Mm.
it'd be interesting if they can, yeah, keep it going.
All right.
All right, let's get into the top 16. Hey, my to start kick my top 16 off. I thought this team was actually going to slip out of it for a second when I was doing my rankings, but they managed to hold on. I've got the Philadelphia Flyers.
Alrighty. I have them at 14. So,
Yeah, it's a tough one because like I don't really think they've done too much wrong. But yeah, it was just there's a few other teams around them that have just sort of done a little bit more for me.
yeah, looks fair enough. They started off hard game with Vegas, lose that, come against the Wild, win that one, and then lose 7-4, concede a few goals against Anaheim on a big streak at the moment. So yeah, look, I'm still impressed with all the games they're playing. I still think they're playing extremely competitive hockey. They've got that team running great. Couturier back, all that. It's just working for them, and I gotta see probably more volume of losses before I can knock them out of my top 16. Because even in their losses, I still think they're playing good.
Yeah, and that's where I was at. I was like losing to Vegas. Oh, and they only lost by a goal. They played quite well against them. They beat Minnesota quite convincingly, and then they lose to an Anaheim who have their tails up. So I was like, overall, it's not a bad week. So they already dropped 5 for me and 4 for you. So I was like, Jesus, if I take him out of the top 16, I feel like that's a bit cruel. Um, so yeah, I mean, they might drop out next week, but we'll just have to wait and see if they can turn it around.
Alrighty. Number 15 for me is the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, see, these guys are number 14 for me, just one more up. So not too
Yeah.
great of a jump.
So they start the week off. They lose to Buffalo. They then go on and I believe lose to New York Islanders, and then finish off winning against Pittsburgh. It's I would have liked to see them at least get the win over Buffalo. I guess it's roles reversed from last season where they ended their season, but it's just one of those things that I just would have liked to see them get that win, because I think there's a very strong and competitive team, but they do play this yo-yo on not winning games that they should, or at least against teams that they should. And look, they were very, very competitive against the New York Islanders. Obviously, they just didn't get over the line, and it's hard with that goaltending. Like, they just got good goaltending there, so that can happen. But
Defensive structure.
yeah, and defensive structure. But I feel like this team's got the firepower, the break through pretty much any defense and goaltending. And so I'm just waiting for them to really click and be a top 10 team, honestly.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm still quite high on them. I still think that they've got a really good team in the making there, but I just I don't know, like I'm with you on that where they just seem to lose to teams that they shouldn't, or they seem to go on these little slides that they shouldn't. There's no question they've got the firepower. They put up, goal after goal. They average 4 goals a game. Their power play is not terrible at 21%, but it's just yeah, I feel like they're just sometimes they're defensive. They have their defensive lapses, and they just can't finish out games against teams that they should. So like that Buffalo game came off the back of the Detroit loss as well. So they didn't just lose against one divisional rival, but 2 division rivals. Um, and as you saw last season with what they did um, to Buffalo and what they did to Detroit as well. I think where they beat them late in the season and sort of ended their seasons. So um, yeah, you've got to be winning those games if you're wanting to take that you know second or third spot in the Atlantic.
Alrighty, your pick.
At pick 13, I have the Carolina Hurricanes, a team I kind of wanted to drop even further, to be honest.
Yeah,
They
I, I,
have been
I feel that.
ordinary.
There's still 11 for me,
Ordinary.
but yes, like you said, ordinary, and they had a pretty easy week that gives them a little comfort in regards to points and whatnot. But they got handled by Tampa, then they beat the Kraken, goes to OT, and then they go and on the back-to-back beat San Jose. So that same easy schedule in regards to Seattle and San Jose in there. They get the wins. Looks like the old Carolina that they get 40 plus shots, but only like 2 to 3 goals. And yeah, like they just look ordinary against teams that are playing somewhat competitive hockey. It's just they're falling apart defensively and goaltending wise.
Yeah, they're not, this is a team that we expect to have a really good penalty kill and not concede a lot of goals. And they're conceding almost 4 goals a game, and their penalty kill is below average. So, yeah, I don't know. It just hasn't clicked for them yet. Um, but it is a little bit worrying that one of their strengths, their greatest strength in terms of defense, is sort of really letting them down to start this season. So early days might just be a couple of things they're trying to tinker with. We know that one of the things they wanted to fix was their goal scoring. They seem to not have an issue with that this season so far. They're averaging 3.6 a game. But they've sort of, to get that, they've let go of their defensive structure a little bit. So I'll see if they can't find a happy medium in scoring goals, but still being quite strong defensively.
Already. Number 13 for me, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning.
They're number 12 for me, just one up. They
Yeah.
just don't go away, do they?
No, they just keep sticking around. I think everyone at this point is saying, "Go away, go away." You've been successful for long enough, but no, look, they have a really good week. Obviously, we just mentioned beat Carolina, and then they beat San Jose. So obviously, the San Jose kind of a staple win. They don't concede a goal for the week, and they score 9. You kind of have to move up on that, and they move up 6 for me into the top 16, 9 for you. Yeah, they just don't go away. And look, they don't concede a goal uh, without Vasilevsky. So, look, good signs.
Yeah, I mean, early on it's pretty good. Their special teams has sort of been carrying them through this phase. 32% on the power play and 94.7 on the penalty kill. So, special teams being a big reason why they're 4-2-2. Again, 4-2-2 is still 4 wins, 4 losses, but when they're not getting the results their way, they're at least taking it to overtime and getting some OT points. So, um, yeah, look, strong so far, especially considering they're without Vasilevsky, and to get back-to-back shutouts without him is massive.
Yep, no, I agree. Your pick.
All right. Number 11, I've got the LA Kings moving up a fair whack from last week. They're from a terrible start of the year, they've moved up 2 weeks in a row to be back right where they left off last season.
Yeah, move up 4 and 5. Yeah, look, they've always been really competitive. They obviously win against Arizona this week. Then they go and beat Arizona again, as we mentioned. And on the back to back, they get a shootout loss against the Golden Knights. So they take it to the Knights on the back to back. And I think that's just showing they're competitive. Obviously, Vegas were also on a back to back, but I think that just showing that LA is really competitive and really trying to edge their way into the top 10, just slightly out of it for us at the moment. And look, it's a Pacific team that's doing well. So that they got that going for them.
Well, they don't have too much competition, do they, at the moment? So, obviously, still to come is 2 other Pacific teams. But when you consider that they're third on our rankings in the Pacific, but the fourth ranked team is literally 24th for me and 20th for you. So there's a big gap between them and the next best Pacific. So if things keep going the way they're going, like the Kings don't have too much to worry about in terms of making a playoff spot.
Nah, it's almost secured. and then they can feed off the other teams for points. Just make it look more inflated. Hmm.
If they don't, if the other teams don't turn their seasons around, it
Yeah.
might just end up being like that. But I expect the other teams to turn their seasons around, though. I don't think it's going to be a whitewash, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Alrighty. Number 10, starting top 10, New York Islanders.
Yep. It's crazy to think they're sitting in the top 10 because I had them falling off a cliff at the start of the year.
No, I had them falling. I don't think a cliff, but I definitely had them. It's hard to say falling when I've always considered them being that wild card area situation. But they lose to Colorado. Obviously, it's Colorado. Then they go and win against Ottawa, and then they shut out Columbus. So Islanders, they just continue to be a hard team to verse. Obviously, with that defense and the goaltending, it's always been the situation. You're just always concerned about their goal scoring. And look, they're upping it a little bit, but I still want to see it flow more. I would like to see a 5 goal or 6 goal game just come up and just start getting some players on fire. But I'm really happy for him up here. It's honestly proving a lot of doubters wrong.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll keep it up, but they've started relatively strong. And it's come off the back of the typical Islanders way, which is strong goaltending, strong defensive structure. I just don't know how long that's going to carry this team. Um, but yeah, like y- they've had a couple of games where their scorers have rocked up, but I still think it's a big issue for them. Um, and I'm not sure that they've necessarily found the answer. And I think it's gonna sort of hurt them throughout the year. So look, they're getting the results so far. They sit here for now. Don't expect them to stay here, but only time will tell.
Alrighty, your pick.
All right, going into 10 now. Ninth for me is a team that, I don't think I really expected to have them this high. The Vancouver Canucks. They're just, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing for these guys.
Oh, I think
There's
it's a
big
long time
talks.
coming, so I think any Vancouver fan's gonna take it. And
Yeah, it's just everything looks good right now if you're a Vancouver fan. Like, there was the big chat last season when they got the first round pick and then they traded it out for Hronik, and it was like we finally got another first round pick to, potentially do somewhat of a rebuild, and we traded out. Um, but yeah, look, there's been some seriously good signs. Obviously, beating Oilers back to back at the start of the year, but even this week they get the win against Nashville 3-2, the win against St. Louis 5-0, and then an OT loss against the Rangers on a back to back, which is that's a pretty good effort there. So they're getting good performances across the board, and they've always had the good players. It's just they've lacked probably the structure, and potentially coaching in a sense.
Hmm. Oh, I think it's
Um,
probably captaincy. They finally put on captaincy on Quinn Hughes. Now they're winning.
mm,
Maybe that was it all along.
yeah,
All right.
well, we know those Hughes boys have some talent, but
Hmm.
yeah, my God, 3.88 goals a game and 2.38 goals against. Like it's working for them both on both ends. They're scoring and they're not conceding. So let's see if they can keep it up.
Alrighty. Number 8 for me, the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, how's that for a out of nowhere 3 game losing streak?
Just falling back to reality, maybe. Beating Calgary, uh, losing in OT to Seattle. They lose to Winnipeg, and then they lose to Boston. Those games pretty comfortably. Honestly, it's kind of surprising that they do lose to Kraken there, with how Kraken have been playing, and then obviously losing to Winnipeg, who is a team that's just slightly around the top 16 mark. So, very pretty disappointing week. And if this decline is hopefully not something that is going to be a trend and back to the old roller coaster ways, and hopefully they can stay in the top 10 and keep this like amazing run going. But I am worried just because of maybe PTSD for them for always going on roller coaster seasons.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at it and they start the season on fire. Like they probably, could have won the game against the Devils. They then win five straight, and now they lose three in a row. It's just got Detroit written all over it. But with the way they started the season, you're not expecting them to be the team they were last year, where they'd win six in a row, then lose six in a row, win six in a row, lose seven in a row. It was like just constant. So I'm hoping that's not what they're going to do this season. I hope they're not going to tease us all and be like, yeah, look, we can play really good hockey and then fall to shit. I'm hoping that I'm hoping this streak doesn't last too long and they can turn it back on because they were looking unbelievably good in
Yep.
those first six games.
All right. 7, your pick.
Seven for me is another team that just I could have them a lot lower than this with the way they're playing, but their results are reasonable and yeah, it's interesting. The New Jersey Devils.
Yeah, the same for me. Clearly some defensive issues and the big question was always the goaltending. But look, they're still getting results. They beat Montreal back to back, lose to Washington, which is the big one this week, and then they beat Buffalo. Easier schedule. They do get 4 out of 6 points, so you probably take that any day of the week. But just probably very disappointing on that Washington game, which is why I moved them
Oh,
down. I was probably expecting 5 points from them this week.
Oh, look, I was kind of expecting all six, to be honest, from them. But, you take a five, you even take the four. But the Washington game was just disappointing. They concede three goals pretty quickly. They just didn't rock up in the first. And Washington weren't anything special in that sense, but they just capitalized on the Devils not rocking up. And then they do rock up and they score four goals and three of them in 2 minutes. And you're thinking, oh, okay, Devils have finally shown up. And then they capitulate for all of about 80 seconds and they're behind again pretty much. So it's, it's frustrating from them this year so far because the firepower they've got. You've seen what Jack Hughes has done so far, 18 points in the first 7 games. Um, yeah, they've got potential to be so much better than what they are so far. They're just not producing it. Um, and yeah, some serious defensive lapses, um, which need to be cleaned up because you can put it on the goaltending, and we know the goaltending for them is a bit of an issue, but it becomes even more of an issue when your defenders aren't doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. Alrighty. Number 6 for me, I have the Dallas Stars.
Oh,
Yes.
I wonder if we can have a straight run home with no differences here because
No,
this
I
top
don't.
10.
I don't know if we will, but because
Well, I mean, it's been pretty good, man. This top 10 has not been anything different so far, so it's impressive.
no, it's showing some consistency. Obviously Dallas beat Pittsburgh, lose to Toronto, and then that is it for the week. It's probably somewhat of what you'd expect. In a sense, you're probably hoping they take it from Toronto as well, but they just couldn't get it done against them. It. I don't have much to say on Dallas. So they're just going through the motions, probably just waiting for the end of the season, really, and they've just been playing good.
They haven't had and they haven't played enough games, like you're
Mm.
looking at it and going, the toughest opponents they've played is Vegas and Toronto. They've only played 6 games. So like how can you really judge them on that so far? Like their three of their 4 wins has been St. Louis, Anaheim, Philly, three teams we don't expect to really be anywhere near a playoff game come the end of the season. Then you've got their two losses of Vegas and Toronto. So their two competition they've both lost against, and then the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are like in that middle ground, they get the win against. So it's a tough one right now. I feel like they're there at 6, but depending what they do when they play a few more games and start to play a few of the better teams, they could drop or they could rise. It just depends on what they do. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, interested to see.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Um, all right, on to number 5 for me. I've got moving up a couple of spots, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Alrighty. Wow, that is the same for me. Okay, keep it going.
Oh, this could be. Oh, 10 straight, that would be impressive. But yeah, look, what do you make of Toronto? They're doing Toronto things right now. We've said it from the start that it's not really about the regular season for Toronto. They're probably going to finish first, if not second, in the Atlantic. It all comes post regular season and what they can do in the playoffs from this point. But yeah, they're just getting results and doing their thing.
Yeah, like honestly, it's basically been Joseph Woll's season. .961 save percentage, absolutely amazing. Very ordinary from Samsonov. So maybe we'll see Woll be the main boy here for the rest of the season. Have to wait and see, but that's what it could look like. Yeah, just they're regular season boys. They get the regular season done. It's just all about playoffs for them. So yeah, it's almost like nothing special here. Just wait till April, May, June, whatever.
Yeah,
Mm,
exactly. So, yeah, it's easy for them. I think they're just going for playoffs.
mm.
And then yeah, so all right, on
All
to
right.
number 4 for you.
Yeah, number 4 for me, New York Rangers.
Yep, there you go. New York Rangers. We are going well so far. I like it.
um,
But they've been good, man.
yeah,
Good.
no, look, they've been very good. It's probably not that surprising. It's probably just surprising how good of good they have been. But they beat Calgary, beat Edmonton, and then they OT win against Vancouver. Honestly, pretty comfortable week in facing the Alberta teams, considering where they are in our power rankings. But then they do get it done against Vancouver as well. Look, even when they're getting outshot, they're still looking really good. I just I just think they're playing some really good hockey. I think Quick is somehow having a resurgence of his career, and he's probably doing it at the right time for him. So,
Mm-hmm.
what is that? .982 save percentage in 3 games. So he's only
Yep.
conceded 1 goal. So just keep playing him, I guess, until he breaks.
Yep.
um, but yeah,
Oh,
you
it's a
just got to
great
ride the hot
backup
hand.
for Shesterkin.
Oh,
It
100%.
is a great backup. Yeah, like one of the things that you've probably questioned with the Rangers in the past is, you know, one of their issues last year was Halak just wasn't a good enough backup. Shesterkin can do it, but the idea for Shesterkin, especially with the Rangers, would be restrict how much he's got to do in the regular season and let him do his thing in the playoffs.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, if Quick can be that good backup as he's started off so far, yeah, it's who knows what they could do from here. So good signs so far from the Rangers. The only thing I could probably say is let's see what happens when they play, some contending teams. They've played mostly teams down the bottom so far, but they've dispatched each and every one of them basically pretty well. So yeah, Rangers just doing Rangers things.
mm. Yeah, pretty much. All right, number 3.
All right. Let's see. This is where it could change up a bit here because I've made a little bit of a change to mine. So I have the Colorado Avalanche dropping a position.
All right, so yeah, now this is where we differ. I have the Avs still
Oh,
at number 2.
oi. See, it was the Pittsburgh loss for me. I
Mhm.
just, both teams dropped points this week. Um, but yeah, just the way they got handled by Pittsburgh, I felt like they just had to drop a spot.
Yeah, I couldn't drop them just purely because well, obviously all undefeated teams I think
Lost.
lose points
Yeah.
this week. So I just couldn't really punish them. I think Avs are really close to being my number one, and if it wasn't for that slight blemish, they would be. So
Yeah.
I couldn't punish them. I'm really, really, really high on the Avs, probably higher than anyone, and so I'm really just waiting for Vegas to make a misstep, but then they slide right in there. But or even Boston,
Yeah.
like even Boston,
Oh,
because of how they're doing. Like this top three is just insane
oh,
so
it
far
is
this
at
run,
the
this top
moment.
10 run, and
At the moment, it
yeah.
definitely is.
So
Um,
once Boston or Vegas make a misstep, I think Avs will make a run, and I think they're going to make the biggest run compared to those two. It's hard though because obviously Vegas won the cup and their team didn't really change from the cup winning team, so
yeah,
it's hard to see them not be at least in the top three.
yeah, for sure. Especially because they get to feed off the Pacific so well.
Oh yes, and they
You
get
know,
that extra advantage against
that's the thing. You
these two
know, like
teams.
when you're playing 26 or whatever it is games against 26 games against the Pacific teams, and the Pacific just happens to be one of the weakest divisions, and then on top of that, you get to feed off of the weaker Central as well. Um, 50 of your games in the year come up against Central and Pacific teams. So, yeah, look, it is what it is. That's just the schedule. That's how it works. But yeah, I'm blown away by how well Colorado have done. I know they're a powerhouse team, but I thought Landeskog being done again might just be what breaks them. But yeah, they're showing that that's not going to slow them down at all.
Alrighty, my number three. We'll have to see if you made any changes here at the top. But my number three, Boston Bruins.
Yeah, nah, no change at the top for me, but I do have Boston at number two, and yeah, I mean, look, who would have thought that they would start off just as well as they finished off last season's regular season?
Mm. No, that's just it. Like I know a lot of Boston fans said everyone's sleeping on us. It won't be as bad as everyone says. I'm still waiting for the drop off because I think it's there. I've seen some holes that's in there, and obviously going to have holes with how much they lost. But they start off. They beat Anaheim. They go and beat Chicago. They OT lose to Anaheim, so a blemish there, and probably a big one because it's probably the easier weeks of runs. And then they beat the Detroit Red Wings, that's who went on a slump. So probably a very very easy schedule, all things considered. And what they get 7 out of 8 points, which is honestly you take that every day of the week. So
Yeah,
extremely strong team. One misstep for any of these teams, and what the other one's going into number one and number two position.
yeah,
And I don't know when they're going to fall apart just a little bit, but I'm expecting it soon.
yeah.
It won't be a big fall. It's like not out of the top 16 or anything, but I'm just waiting for a little slump.
Look, you do have to question, you look at their lineup of who they've played in their first 8 games, and they've played Chicago twice, Anaheim twice, the Sharks once, Kings, Predators, and Detroit.
Mm.
They're not, Detroit have been
Extremely
good.
easy teams, all things considered. Like if you were to weigh it on scale.
Oh yeah, you're looking at Dutch, Chicago, and the Sharks. That's probably three of your bottom five teams. Although Anaheim look a little bit better so far this
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, look, the only blemish they've had on their season has been 2 minutes. Because prior to the last 2 minutes of that Anaheim game, they were controlling that game pretty well, which is the one thing that I look at this schedule and I'm like, okay, it is weaker teams, but I also look at it and go, well, they've only conceded more than 2 goals once, and that was against the Anaheim Ducks,
mm,
who up until 2 minutes before the end of the game had only scored 1 goal.
mm,
Like they've only conceded 1 goal 4 times. Had a shutout. They've had a shutout, and then the other two were 2 goals. So like they defensively they're getting the job done, and even against the weaker teams, when you're just getting the job done like they're doing, that's what you want to see. So yeah, solid performance from them, but yeah, the question's going to come when they start playing some of those contending teams. So um, who knows? The fall off might not be that bad, but when they start coming up against, the Torontos, Dallas, Vegas, Devils, sort of Colorado sort of thing, um, yeah, we might actually see them start to sort of slip a little bit.
Alrighty. And your secret number one?
Who knows? Who knows what this one could be? But no, the Vegas Golden Knights untouched and stay up the top, even with their little blemish. Um, it was hard to do anything with them.
Yeah,
They had to
no,
stay at number one.
they're just playing as a. They don't have any Blues being reigning Stanley Cup champions. Nothing, no layback from that, no hangover. So they're just going through the motions. Honestly, this is just wait till playoffs now because they are in the Pacific. I don't think any of those teams can make a huge run to leapfrog Vegas and kick them out. So honestly, already at this point, I think it's just waiting for our playoffs for Vegas, which is insane to think that you're only 6, 7, 8 games in the season and you're thinking about playoffs. But
Yeah,
that's where we are with them. And look, they're going to be strong. They're going to be strong in the playoffs. They've proven it once. They can do it again. And oh, the teams have a long time to work it out, I guess, and work out their system and work out the holes.
yeah,
Other than that,
yeah. I don't think they they have like they don't have too many holes. They're pretty consistent across the four lines. That's why they won the cup last year. But yeah, it's tough because they haven't really been tested this year. They haven't had to come up against any real sort of contending teams, probably Dallas and maybe LA, which was the other day. So, um, or today. Um,
which
so
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Um, so again, it's like similar to Boston. Um, you know, where are they going to be at when they start playing some of the better teams? But again, I don't think we're going to see too much of a slip up from these guys. I think you're right in that sense of they're just gonna they're just gonna get to the playoffs again. They're probably going to be number one in the Pacific,
mm,
and then it's just going to be what can they do come playoffs? Because yeah, they've definitely got a team built for a back-to-back cup
mm.
attempt.
Alrighty. Oh, I guess yeah. Let us know what you think of our power rankings. I had 8 people not moving this week. Nick had only 3 not moving. A lot of big moves up and down. Uh, well, it was the biggest one for you, plus 12. So yeah, a lot of big movements. Probably one of the final weeks until things start settling down. But yeah, let us know what you think of the power rankings. What teams are going to go up or down next week? Like the video and subscribe to the channel for more hockey content. But till next time, guys, we'll catch you there.
See you later, guys.